Lawson's looking at?
5 to 10 years, depending on the judge.
Well, it better not be Judge Roper then. Probably let him off with a caution.
For robbery and wounding. Even old Ropey wouldn't dare do that.
Sergeant Roach.
Yes.
Julie Field, CPS.
Pleased to meet you.
DC Carver, Jim.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm sorry, but defence counsel's just informed us Lawson's not going to plead guilty after all.
What?
But he confessed.
Ah, that's just it. He's retracting the confession.
So what is it this time? Oppression or unreliable circumstances?
Both. We won't know the exact nature of the allegation until the vordire. The trial within a trial. To see if the confession can be included in the evidence.
Yeah, but he's just trying it on.
How long is it going to take?
Could be all day.
Oh, no.
Morning.
Fine.
Ta-da! One warrant to search the premises of Marvin's Marvellous Motors Limited.
You jammy old... How do you swing that?
Charm, Alan. Plus, I had a very good case. You know, overwhelming circumstantial evidence. The place was dealing in stolen motors, etc., etc.
And they bought it?
Yeah.
Wonders will never cease.
It happens to be true, Gov.
As you've been telling us all for the last month.
Yeah, well, once Ted gets back, we'll be paying Marvellous Marv a little visit.
Yeah, well, that might be some time. I've just had the CPS on the blower. Lawson's changed his plea. So Ted may be held up.
Darrell Nigel Graham Lawson, you are charged that on the 13th of October you did assault and rob a Mr. Mahendra Mirchandani of £151 33 pence in money, contrary to Section 8 of the Theft Act 1968. How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty. Of voir dire.
Yeah.
Do the CPS want anyone else down there?
Anyone who had contact with Lawson while he was here, which means Roach, Carver and the custody sergeant.
And who was that?
Maitland. Oh, yeah, and the police surgeon who examined him. Lawson was recovering from an amphetamines bender when he was brought in. The doc slipped him something for his nerves, apparently.
Jim, you're spoiling my coffee.
It's the waiting I can't stand, Sarge. Well, plus the fact I don't know what we're supposed to have done.
Well, it's trial by ambush, isn't it, mate? They sucker us into saying something, then they twist our words and spring some nasty little surprise.
10 to 1 it's something to do with his drugs. He wasn't fit to be interviewed or something.
Excuse me. You're the policeman involved in this case, aren't you?
Roach!
Excuse me.
Yes.
I'm Sumita Gupta, Mr. Mirchandani's victim support.
Hello.
I was wondering if you could tell us what the hell is going on.
We are thinking this Larson say guilty, but he say not guilty. The jury come in, and then the judge send all out.
Well, basically, Lawson, that's the accused, he says we got his confession out of him unfairly. We've got to convince the judge that we didn't, or we can't use the confession as evidence to the jury when the trial proper begins.
Kya keh raha?
Take care. And if you can't convince him?
Well, we've got no case. Just a witness who thinks he saw Lawson near the scene around the time of the crime.
Mr. Mirchandani was attacked late on the night of the 13th of October last year when a hooded man entered his late-night supermarket, threatened him with a knife, and demanded his takings. Mr. Mirchandani refused. A struggle followed, during which he sustained several knife wounds before the man made off with the contents of his till, about 150 pounds. After inquiries were made in the area, a witness came forward to say that he had seen a man of similar build to that described by Mr. Mirchandani in the vicinity of the supermarket just prior to the time that the attack took place. He later identified, from photographs, that man as Darrell Lawson. DC Carver and I arrested Lawson early on the morning of the 16th.
That's 3 days after the offence.
Yes. He was taken to Sun Hill, questioned, and eventually admitted to the crime.
Did anything unusual or out of the ordinary occur during the course of his questioning, Sergeant? Can you remember?
Not really. Except after he admitted to the offence, he asked for drugs, amphetamines. I asked him why. He said he was a heavy user and he wouldn't tell us any more until he had some.
Was this the first you knew about his drug use?
Yes.
What did you do?
I suspended the interview. Informed the custody sergeant. He called a police surgeon who examined him and gave him some tranquilizers.
Tranquilizers?
He was getting a little wound up.
Then what happened?
He made a statement and was charged.
In other words, then, when Mr. Lawson made his statement confessing to the robbery, he had been passed fit to do so by the police surgeon?
Yes.
Thank you, Sergeant.
John,
padlock against
a
number
word.
12 and appear to be breaking in. Can you deal?
Kathy, could you take over, please?
All right, Sergeant.
You needed in court.
Oh?
Darrell Lawson. Ring any bells?
No.
No, well, you were custody sergeant when he was brought in for that robbery of the Asian supermarket on Duke Street last October.
The speed freak.
That's the one. Anyway, he's just retracted his confession, so they want you down at court. Problem?
No, sir.
Right, Donna's primed to give you the custody records. Quick as you can, then.
Thank you, sir.
Sergeant Roach, you say that as soon as Mr. Lawson demanded drugs, you suspended the interview and informed the custody sergeant.
Yes.
There was also a 7-minute break between 8:44 and 8:51 when D.C. Carver left the room, it seems for some coffee.
If you say so.
I'm surprised you don't remember, Sergeant, because soon after he returned and the interview resumed, Mr. Lawson confessed to the crime.
It all happened more than 9 months ago.
Did you say anything to Mr. Lawson while D.C. Carver was out of the room?
No.
Nothing?
Not that I recall, no.
Are you sure, Sergeant? Because it looks very fishy, doesn't it? That Mr. Lawson should suddenly open his heart to you in return for a cup of coffee, when up to the point that D.C. Carver left the room, he'd been adamant that he had absolutely nothing to do with the robbery on October the 13th. Well, Sergeant Roach?
I'm sorry, what was the question exactly?
Hello, Skip.
All's go, I see.
Well, the wheels of justice grind exceedingly slow, as they say.
Do they? So what time am I on, do you know?
Well, they're not through with Ted yet, and he's on first.
Because, as you so rightly said, it all happened so many months ago, I'd like to refer you to a fair summary of the interview made by D.C. Carver and a word-for-word transcription made by us and agreed by the prosecution from our copy of the tape recording of the interview.
Which document is this?
JC 1 and 2, my love.
Ah.
What would you say we are to make of Lawson's line, "I ain't saying no more till I get some stuff"?
He knew we had him in the frame for the robbery, so he decided to do a quid pro quo.
Really? I think this shows that you've done a deal in that break, and that Lawson is here afraid of giving you too much in case you don't keep your side of the bargain.
No.
Well, don't you think it's strange that he should talk about his stuff as if you knew what he meant, when he'd never referred to it before at any other time in the interview?
I didn't know what he meant. That's why I asked him what stuff.
I suggest you did that to cover your back for the tape. I suggest that sometime before this point, maybe when you searched his flat, maybe because of his behavior during the course of the interview, you realized that Darrell Lawson had a drug habit, and in the absence of any evidence against him, you decided to use that to extract a confession.
No.
I put it to you again, Sergeant. You knew Darrell Lawson needed drugs, and you used that knowledge to get what you wanted from him. Then you conspired with D.C. Carver to cover up the line that gives the game away.
No.
How do you account for it, then? I ain't saying no more till I get some stuff. If you didn't do a deal. If you didn't oppress my client. You did oppress my client, didn't you?
No.
I must remind you, Sergeant, you're under oath.
Are you calling me a liar?
No further questions, my lord?
Oh, Ted. Great. Listen, I've got the
Listen,
warrant.
I'm sorry
so I
to disappoint you, Viv. We're just on a lunch break. I just came back to ask you a favor.
Oh,
You know the situation?
yeah.
Right. It's almost certain that Lawson is going to give evidence later on, and it's just as certain his brief is going to want me out of the courtroom when he does. Now, I need some eyes and ears in the gallery when he testifies.
Why?
Why? Because if this case gets thrown out, and there are allegations against us in the press, the knives are going to be out for yours truly. That's why. You know what I'm saying?
Ted, are you through at court?
No, sir. We've just adjourned for lunch.
I'd like a word.
All right, all right.
All right, what?
I did it, all right?
Did what, Darrell?
A Packy supermarket.
Tell us about it.
I ain't saying any more till I get some stuff.
What stuff's that, Darrell?
You know, like sulfate. And I ain't saying no more till I get some.
A trial within a trial. Has this got anything to do with it?
It's come up.
Do you want to tell me about it?
Nothing to tell.
Don't jerk me around, Ted. I've been in this business long enough to develop a good nose, and there's something about this that stinks pretty high. All right, Sergeant. That's the way you want to play it.
Detective Constable Carver, when you arrested Mr. Lawson, how would you describe his state, physically and mentally?
It's a bit groggy. It was 6 a.m.
And mentally?
Well, he wasn't pleased to see us, if that's what you mean. No one is that time in the morning.
When you searched his flat, what did you find?
Nothing.
Given Mr. Lawson's amphetamine habit, wouldn't you have expected to find some of the drug there?
Oh, not necessarily. Firstly, we weren't looking for drugs. We were looking for things to time in with a robbery. Plus, amphetamines are often taken socially, you know, at dances, parties, etc. I mean, even if he'd been on a run, as he said he had in his statement...
A run?
A binge, a blowout, Your Honour, lasting maybe up to a few days. So, even if he was on a run, he might have done it all outside the flat.
Is Ted gone?
Ah, yes, sir, about half an hour ago.
Martella?
With them, sir. At least they left together. I think they've gone to serve a want on Marvin's Marvellous Motors.
Really?
Were you surprised, Detective Constable Carver, that Mr. Lawson broke down and confessed so soon after you left him alone with Sergeant Roach while you got the coffees?
Well, not especially. Suspects often confess after they've had time to think.
Or time to listen.
What do you mean?
I mean that while you were out of the room, Sergeant Roach did a deal with Mr. Lawson, drugs for a confession, and that you then conspired with him to cover it up in this fair summary.
No.
No what?
There was no deal, no conspiracy, no cover-up.
But how do you know there was no deal, Constable? You weren't in the room.
Sergeant Roach?
Oh, Mr. Merchandise, how are you?
All fine now. Doctor's very good.
Oh, that's good, that's good.
What is happening?
I'm about to find out. You wait here.
Does the CPS know? Right, OK. Thanks, sir.
What gives?
Monroe's tracked down the police surgeon on holiday in Santorini.
Can't we get her back?
Sarge? Yeah, you're on.
Thanks.
The police surgeon's on holiday on a Greek island.
So?
So she can't give evidence that we couldn't possibly have known he was a speed freak when we brought him in.
Yeah, as far as I can see, that's not the issue. It's whether you said something to him during that break. Or did you?
Jim, do you think Lawson is guilty?
Yeah.
And do you think he's trying it on in there?
Of course.
So what's the problem?
So, in your opinion, Sergeant, Mr. Lawson was fit to be interviewed and make a statement?
Yes. And in the opinion of the police surgeon, too.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Sergeant Maitland, how would you describe Mr. Lawson's condition immediately before the police surgeon gave him the tranquilizers?
Tired, agitated, hungry again?
Had it changed markedly since you first saw him when he was brought in?
Well, if anything, he was more tired and shaking a bit more.
Thank you. No more questions, my lad.
Thank you, Sergeant.
My lad, because the police surgeon did not envisage being called, I'm afraid to say she's on holiday and cannot be contacted. However, you do have her statement and her report. The Crown will not be calling any more witnesses, my lad.
Very well. Mr. King?
Thank you, my lad. I should like to call Darrell Lawson.
Blimey, that was quick.
Well, it's like Christmas dinner, isn't it? Hours to make, over in minutes. See ya.
Mr. Lawson, would you briefly tell His Honour what happened when one of the officers left the room?
Yeah. The one with the tash, Roach. He asked me why I'm shaking so much. So I says, I've been on the booze, you know. And he said, do I want something stronger than coffee? So I said, what do you mean? And he said, what am I on, speed or ecstasy?
What did you say?
Well, I didn't say nothing. I mean, I knew he was trying it on.
Did he say anything else?
Yeah. He said he knew I stabbed that Indian geezer and that I'm in a lot of trouble. Right now, They're taking me flat apart for evidence, which I found out later was complete porkies, Your Honour. All they needed, he said, was a speck of blood, anything, from the victim, and they could tell because of some new system they got.
DNA fingerprinting?
Maybe. Yeah.
Go on.
Anyway, if I cooperate, he said, and admit that I'd done the robbery, that'd all be taken into account by the court, and so would the fact that I was probably on drugs when I'd done the robbery.
And how did you react to that?
Well, I still didn't say nothing. I mean, I knew he was up to something because the tape recorder wasn't on.
So, then what happened?
He said I could have something to make me feel better right then if I said I did the robbery.
And how did you feel right then?
Really down, you know. I mean, all right. I'd been doing speed for some time at that point in my life. I'm off it now. But it had been, I don't know, I suppose, a couple of days since my last hit. So I was pretty desperate, I suppose, for something.
Desperate enough to be tempted to make a false confession?
Yeah.
Of course, you know what it means if this case is thrown out, don't you? Another black mark in that big book called Sergeant Edward Roach, Metropolitan Police. With the emphasis on sergeant.
Well, perhaps we should have looked harder for more evidence then.
Mr. Lawson, I have only one very simple question for you. You say you were so desperate for drugs that you freely confessed to a crime that you didn't commit.
Yes.
Well, if you knew or suspected that you would need drugs during the course of your interview, why didn't you inform the custody sergeant of your condition when you first arrived at Sun Hill?
Didn't know I could.
Didn't the sergeant tell you your rights? The right to see a solicitor, to have somebody informed of your arrest, to refer to the Police and Criminal Evidence Act codes of practice?
Can't really remember. I was a bit out of it, you know.
But not too out of it to know that Sergeant Roach shouldn't have been talking to you with his tape recorder off.
No.
No. So, despite your condition and the knowledge that you might need drugs, you ignored all the possibilities of help that were offered to you on arrival, especially a solicitor.
I was scared. I thought if they knew, you know, I was doing speed, that they'd have something to pin on me. So I was doing it when I was on a run or whatever.
And yet later you confessed.
Look, you know how they do these things. They get you all confused, wound up. And when you're in those places, you're in their hands. They can do one thing and say something totally different. So I thought, yeah, I'd make a statement. Otherwise, they'd make it all up themselves anyway. And I'd go down like all them others, the Birmingham 6, the Tottenham 3. And I didn't want to be the Sun Hill 1.
Viv?
Sir?
Come in, will you? Close the door. Take a seat. Where have you been?
Out, sir.
I don't get cute with me, Martella. Either you're out on police time, in which case it's my business, or you weren't, in which case you should have asked permission, which you didn't, so it's also my business. You were seen leaving with Ted Roach.
I've been to court, sir.
What for?
I thought if Ted Roach was through in time, we could still serve the warrant on Marvellous Marv.
So why'd you leave it here? Why'd you go to court? Let me guess. Ted Roach asked you to spy for him. Hear what Lawson had to say for himself. Am I right? I'm asking you a question, Martella. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
You know what you've done, don't you? Hearing Lawson's testimony means that Roach would be able to alter his own testimony if it came to a full trial. You know the sort of stink that'd make if the defence found out? What it'd do to this case, to the credibility of this department, to our relationship with CPS?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you knew all that, but you still did it. Get out.
Section 76, subsection 2 of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act states that where a confession is contested, the onus is on the prosecution to prove beyond reasonable doubt that it was not obtained by the oppression of the person who made it. You see, everything boils down to whom you believe. Now, to believe Mr. Lawson, one has to think that Sergeant Roach was sharp enough in the interview to work out that Lawson was dependent on drugs. Now, to believe Sergeant Roach, on the other hand, one has to overlook the statement that was brought forcibly to the attention of the court, "I ain't saying no more till I get some stuff," which, on the face of it, certainly seems to imply a prior conversation about Mr. Lawson's drug use, which was not recorded on the tape. And, of course, Mr. Lawson made his confession without a solicitor present. On balance, though, I have decided to allow the confession to stand, though I feel bound to point out, Mr. Smith, that you may find a jury rather less obliging, particularly in view of the lack of any other very substantive evidence in this case.
Spelling's getting worse, Viv. We don't want the CPS to think we're a bunch of planks, do we?
Right, Viv? No, never. Marvellous Marv has misappropriated motors.
Sorry, Ted. DCI, now.
You have a problem with the rules, Sergeant Roach?
No, sir.
Because if you do, I've got a problem with you. Now, I don't know what happened in that interview, and I'm prepared to give you the benefit of the doubt. But using a fellow officer to spy for you in court, what do you think you're playing at?
What'd she say?
Forget Martella. I'm interested in you. An officer only bends the rules if he's lazy, bent himself, or to cover up a mistake. So what was it? Well, let me tell you, Sergeant Roach, mistakes I can cope with up to a point as long as you come clean with them. But laziness and corruption, I have no time for. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, sir.
Cheers, Cheers.
Cheers. You know what really gets up my nose about this whole business? Everyone seems to forget that what we're talking about is a piece of scum who got smashed out of his brain and then stuck a knife in an old man more than once and then robbed him. So what if I did talk to him a bit when I shouldn't?
Did you?
What do you think? Don't give me that look, Frank. It used to be called good policing.
That was pre-Pace. What's the matter with you? You look as though you stepped in a load of dog's mess.
I just had a call from the CPS. They're dropping the case against Lawson in light of the judge's remarks.
You're joking.
Oh, dear. Same again.